we can talk about the hitting philosophy stuff. There was an article from our great friends um Adam Jude at Friends. He's multiple people now. Adam Jude at the Seattle Times about how the Mariners front office, the two heads of your front office, and Jerry Dipoto and Justin Hollander, basically. Did we talk about this last week, or was this
We
the
did
first
a little bit.
episode?
Yeah. Yep.
Uh, um, how the Mariners organization have changed their hitting philosophy, um, and how it's funny to say old school methods because this is just stuff that, like, at least growing up playing baseball, that you were taught to do.
It's just
Britt, do you
baseball.
want to talk about this?
It's just baseball. Sack flies, sack bunts, and hitting the ball the opposite way is just baseball. I kind of talked about this last week. I I think there's something to this idea of Jerry Dipoto wanting to be the smartest person in the room. They do a really fantastic job with the analytics on the pitching side. You have to give them their flowers for that. They break it down really well and then they communicate it really well. They use it appropriately and it has paid off immensely. Hitting offensively, it's too much when you are breaking things down that finite and putting that much information and data into a hitter's head beforehand. So this was discussed a lot on social media, and it is fairly egregious that it has taken them this long to come to the table and say, yeah, we should change our hitting philosophy. And Edgar showed us that we needed to shift our hitting philosophy to more appropriate for our ballpark, which is so incredibly difficult to hit in. Year after year, it is in the bottom 2 to 3 worst ballparks to hit in. Now it gets significantly better in the summertime, but you cannot be trying to pull home runs in April when it is 44 degrees. And if you are doing a three true outcome philosophy of walk, home run, strikeout, that strikeout rate is going to be doing the heavy lifting of those three true outcomes in April, May, June. It's just the way it is, and it's the way the ballpark is built too. So it was a great article. I'm glad to see the tail between the legs. I think the quote was shame on us for not figuring this out earlier, from Jerry. And yeah, shame on them. I'm glad he's owning it, and also shame on them. That should not have taken this long to figure out. So I am encouraged to hear them say this. I hope they have the tools internally um, to adjust and communicate their adjustments, because again, hitting is so hard, and if you're not communicating a game plan well to your offense, then if you step into the box with any questions in your mind of what your game plan is, it's going to be an issue. So I look forward to seeing how this goes. It kind of, we did this last year. Brant Brown came in. I was like, all right, we've got a new offensive philosophy. We got a new way we're going to approach this, and let's see how it plays out. We're kind of doing it again this year. Hopefully Edgar has the amount of influence he should have, which is a lot. And I will feel significantly better if that's the case. It is, again, just a shame that it has taken this long for them to figure out. Another thing from the Jude article was he said in so many words a couple times that the core position group is likely in place. I think we've known this. I think we've talked a lot about this. Outside of a Carlos Santana, Justin Turner signing, I don't think we are going to see a Nico Horner addition, or really honestly a significant infield addition. I certainly hope we do. and are not relying on Dylan Moore and Leo Rivas and Ryan Bliss opening day. But that's really what it's starting to look like. So it was interesting to see that actually written out in the Jude article.
Yeah, man, there's a lot of quotes you can go at here. I mean, this one, I mean, he said this is from late September, apparently. I don't remember it, but Jerry's saying our ballpark might not be conducive to doing it quite the way we have in the past. Shame on us for taking this long to understand that. Because I mean, the Mariners have had players who can hit. I'm not saying they're all, smashing, homers, but they've
Mhm.
got guys who can hit, and they come in here, and some folks blame it on yeah the weather and how that works around here, and being so close to the water. Um, but that and then people will complain, well, other teams come in here and do it. I'm like, yeah, other teams probably coach hitting better. It I don't know. It's just so funny for us to talk about how, things were so, broken down into hitting basics. Um,
Yeah.
ooh, oh, I mean, this isn't new, but it is interesting to read into this more. Um, just the importance of Edgar. And it's not like Edgar hasn't been around. I mean, I would see him every once in a while watching batting practice and talking to guys here and there, just because I knew he had a role in the organization. I didn't know what it was. It's like for word, and then obviously, Dan Wilson becomes the manager and they hire Edgar in that position. Um, but just, for a guy to have for a guy like Edgar to have the connection that he does, like with some of the the Latin born players, like in the article, and I feel like we all knew this, but in the article it does say, Julio and Edgar grew close, and Julio was hopeful that Martinez would come back in 25. So obviously he does. This is interesting to see how Jerry Dipoto described Kevin Seitzer.
Mm.
He described him as the Midwest Edgar because
Hmm.
of their
I
shared
saw
hitting
that.
philosophies. So that would be nice, to have them on the same track, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it was interesting to hear from so many players. When the team did fire Brent Brown, there was a lot of, hey, I thought it worked for me. And then there were some who were like, it just seemed like there was a lot to look at. I'm like, tell me what you really think.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, it's not surprising at all. Oh yeah, change. So they're not gonna move the fences. They're not gonna change the batter's eye. They're not gonna close the roof more often. At least not per Jerry, which it's not surprising. But I know some people had suggested one of those three, right? Um,
Of those three, I do think there's something to be said about closing the roof in the
hmm.
early months. Your players have been very vocal about that, including your uh, captain in JP Crawford has gone to social media to even talk about it. If your players are asking for it that outwardly and explicitly, boy,
I could only think. I'm sorry. I can only think of when you say that. It was pregame, and it was like windy or something, and it was overcast, and it had been closed previously, and then they opened it, and I just hear JP Crawford yell from he's like no from the infield, and then we get up into the press box again, and I see he quote tweeted Divish, and he's
yeah,
enclosed the roof. I got JP Crawford is so funny.
I
Oh
I
well,
can't quite
Yankees
under
just
what? Oh, go ahead.
signed Goldschmidt to a 1 year, $12 million
They
deal.
did. Okay. So we don't have to talk about Goldschmidt. Great. Great. Fine by me. Great.
Josh Nail, nah, Pete
That's
Alonso
great. That is a old player.
to
And
an
that
old,
would
decrepit franchise.
yeah, yeah. No, that's great. I don't know at that point why the Yankees didn't just run it back with Anthony Rizzo, but it's none of my business.
Mariners Anthony Rizzo.
Don't don't get my hopes up.
I mean, he would be cheaper than everyone else. Brittany, we're
I
thinking here.
know. I know.
Hold on, I'm gonna look at this. Sorry, I've gotten kind of mad, like during this, just thinking about the hitting thing. Dipoto did say the Mariners have talked about options for the batter's eye at least, but
Something that's interesting to me is I Edgar's been around for a while, right?
hmm,
Always at batting practice, not always, but a lot of time at batting
largely,
practice. We have
yeah.
seen over the last few years him spending time talking to Julio and guys and showing up to batting practice. And so I wonder what shifted if it's just a he was able to really spend a lot of more time with the guys. Um I'm so curious to see how this all develops going into this season. Are we completely blowing this out of proportion again in terms of hitting
Mm,
philosophy, like we did with Brant Brown? Are we, you know, going to look back and say Edgar's great and we love the relationship that he has with Julio, but we got bigger issues in terms of it's a talent thing and less of an approach thing? I don't know. It's going to be really interesting. It's going to tell a lot as well.
yeah.
And I'll also be watching the St. Louis Cardinals. I'm curious to see now that Brant Brown is over there with St.
Oh yeah.
Louis. I'm curious to see what their offense looks like this year. It was not great. It wasn't terrible last year, but they were ranked around 20th, I think, in WRC plus. So
Be better. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Um, I and not to make it super basic, but I think we just need to make it basic. Like, I think they have been too in their own heads about it. Um,
uh,
and it's just remarkable to see how they were hitting when, oh wow. Um, old philosophy. Come on, come on, really? Like, this is stuff I grew up with. I don't play that well. I mean, come on. Just because of the Goldschmidt news, I did look at first baseman options. Um, it's funny, you know who if yeah, who Alonso's got the most WAR from the last season. Do you know who has the second most WAR of available free agent first baseman?
hmm.
Carlos Santana. And then there's Ty France. Um,
I was wondering where Ty would show
oh, he
up
has
on that
negative
list.
0.19
Oh, my poor
previous
Ty.
WAR. Still
No,
better than Josh Bell and Jose Abreu.
yeah,
Um,
and low bar.
but yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I think Carlos Santana's probably strategically waiting things out a little bit. It sounds like he is still asking and expecting for a lot, as he should. He just won a Gold Glove. Good on him. I can't hate that at all. So I do think it'll be Carlos and or JT, or it won't be it'll be Carlos or JT, and they'll run it back. And we're looking at our team.
I wonder if at the end of this offseason, Carlos Santana is the biggest signing we have to talk about, Brittany. Okay. I'm delusional. I've gone like crazy
No,
enough.
I
We
think
need to
that's
stop.
incredibly valid. I At least we are not, if that's the scenario, at least we're not talking about a Castillo trade. At least we're not talking about subtracting from an
Sure.
already thin offensive roster. Any subtractions, especially on the pitching side, would hurt unless the return is worth it. And this organization has proven that they can't evaluate good hitters and what their fit will be in T-Mobile Park and on this team. So if you trade Luis Castillo, it is a risk no matter what the return is. And I understand the outrage of just bringing in a Carlos Santana and calling it a day. I think that is better than subtracting and what they did last offseason in salary dumps and shipping guys off.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get it. There are plenty of things to be upset about. There are. this is the reality of this organization, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I'd rather, because the pitching, and I know that the pitching is like the one thing that helps them win games.
Yeah.
If you take away from that, superpower, and you don't get something that is proven, and like you said, even then isn't proven, it is a risk. Like you said, you nailed it perfectly. So that'll end it. I mean, there hasn't been much to talk about, so we just kind of go off of what there is to speak of, and the potential here. Again, like if we get through next week and there's still nothing, we will start to break out some of the storylines, and what we might see there. So until we see you next week, geez, we're already near the end of the month of December. Take care of
Yes.
yourselves. Happy holidays to
Happy
everybody as I look out
holidays.
my window and it's raining. I love it. So fun. I could be outside slipping and hitting my head on the ice right now. That would be so much fun.
No ice. Nope. I'll take mild weather any day.
Until we see you next time, take care of yourselves, be well. Spend more money than the Mariners and do whatever you can to make today a great day.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, how about those M's?
Oh, I'm excited.
I know. Where are you going to watch all those away games, though?
Away games. Huh. I was thinking of coming here since, after all, Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports.
I love that idea. Hope to see y'all here.
Hello there, everybody. Charles Hamaker here with Circling Seattle Sports. I'm joined by Jen Barnes of Rough and Tumble that we happen to be at right now.
Yeah.
Jen, why don't you talk to me a little bit about what we're announcing today, which is our partnership.
I'm so excited about this. First of all, I just want to say thank you. I think all of us here at Rough and Tumble are big fans of what you and your team at Circling Seattle Sports does. And so, I know you know this, but when you came to me with this idea, it just seemed pretty natural. And it's not just me. I think a lot of people in the sports community in Seattle also really respect you and your team. So it's exciting to kind of see these two things melding together, and we're really excited to start implementing some of the things and then hopefully seeing you guys a little bit more often.
Yeah, and so with what Jen says about seeing us more often, we've got a few things in the works, but you'll see watch parties here. We'd like to do a few different of our community drives, which you'll hear about here in a little bit from now. We've got to make our announcements one at a time. I can't drop everything.
Not everything
right?
all at once.
But this has been a home for a lot of our team, whether it's myself, our friend, our photographer Liz is behind the camera. Liz is here often, so our team has kind of adopted this place kind of like our own since I saw you at our soft launch. So, it's been great to have that support. And in a lot of ways, and part of the reason I wanted to do this was the Rough and Tumble embodies a lot of what Circling Seattle Sports wants to do. Obviously with women's sports, with the storm and the rain, but just being, having the game on, every game on.
Yep.
How much of that, did you see a line kind of even before this idea was mentioned when I first met you?
I think it's always felt like that. I mean, you and your team were here on opening night, and you just feel like you're part of the space, so it felt like really natural. And the fact that you actually cover all of the sports really makes your group stand out. So you are always covering all the rain games, all the storm games. You'd have women's softball, you'd have women's basketball, you'd have women's hockey. We love it. So all of those things, and obviously passionate M's fans, passionate Hawks fans, and passionate Kraken and Sounders fans. So really, from our perspective, those two things meshed really well.
So, you heard it from Jen herself, but this will be our home for all of these events, whether it's you can't make it to these games at home, we're always going to direct you to Rough and Tumble, and obviously the games on the road as well. All these, we're talking about the rain, they've got their schedule out finally,
Yeah, yep.
But this will be our home for that.
Great.
The storm games on the road, this is our home.
Yeah.
For all intents and purposes.
I love it.
And when I mentioned it to Jen when I first had this idea come up, I had this idea come up wearing a pink wig.
Yes, you did.
Ahead of Megan Rapinoe's final regular season home game for the Reign this past year.
Yeah.
I told her it's because I wanted this to feel genuine.
Yep.
I wanted a connection to feel genuine, and it does.
Yeah.
So that's what this is. Rough and Tumble is the home of Circling Seattle Sports, and I'm so excited to finally announce this partnership.
I can't wait.